So you're scrolling through the internet and you see that new bike, good geo, good suspension, good Schwalbe tires. And then you check the brakes and you're like, no, why have they put codes on there? We've all been there, riders, I'm sure. And today we're going to do the long-term test on the Magura MT7s and tell you why I think they are one of the best upgrades for your e-bike in 2022. Raiders, welcome back to Sam's Bikes, where you know we only talk e-bikes, and today it's the 2000km review on the Magura MT7s. I have actually had these on my Levo since I got it, and a shout out to Insta360, the sponsor of this video today. And also, riders, I'm going to say I do hate on code brakes a fair bit, but also I know some fantastic riders that swear by code brakes. So it really is each to their own, and every rider is different. So my story started with MT7 Brakes when I got the Levo JN3 like 9 months ago. Since then, put 2,000 kilometers on the bike, on the brakes. I absolutely fell in love with these brakes. I actually love them so much, I took the codes off my Kenevo SL and put the same brakes on, because any rider out there would know probably the most important thing when you have two bikes is have the same brakes, same tires on that bike. For me, the Magura MT7s fill me with confidence. They have enough modulation, but at the same time, you can still feel the whole power through the whole stroke, which I think is really important when you're pushing hard on these heavy e-bikes. I also love how customizable the Magura brakes are. You can actually change the levers over to 3 or 4 different levers. Right now, I've got the Lorik Bruni levers. For me, Lorik Bruni is an absolute legend, and I had to ride his levers, but I actually have the original titanium 3D printed lever with Lorik Bruni's name on it. I think it will be a collector's item in the future. And also Magura offer a few different sets of brake pads, all organic. I'm actually rocking the race ones, and wow, they have so much power. But riders, when you're getting a new brake setup, make sure you bed them in. You want to get up to speed to about 25 k's an hour. Start off with the front brake, and you want to pull it progressively until you come to a stop. Not an endo, just till you get to a stop. You want to repeat that 20 to 30 times and then do the same on the back. And then you'll have your brake pads bed in. Very important, don't go and do it out in the trails, because 1, it's dangerous. You're not going to have any brakes or very little brakes. And 2, you're going to go, oh, these Maguras aren't very good. So definitely bed in those brakes first. So I've talked a bit about modulation in this review so far. And what is modulation and why would you want it? Well, first of all, I'm going to explain it through the brakes, and then I'll tell you why you'd want it. So first off, with Shimano brakes, for me, they have very little modulation. So when you're on the brakes, you actually find your bite point, or I also call it the friction point. You have very little room between on and off. So it's really good. I like Shimano brakes. I actually like, they were my go-to before I went to Magura. And then you've got codes, and codes have a lot of modulation. So between on and off, you have a lot of room between going on and off. But for me, codes feel a little bit spongy, and they don't seem to have the full power until you get closer to the end of the stroke or end of the bite point. And then I want to talk about the MT5 brakes, which a lot of people would think, like with the Shimano 4-piston lineup, you've got SLX, XT, then you've got Saints and XTR. And I've been lucky enough to ride pretty much all those combinations. And for me, I don't think there's a lot of difference between the lower end Shimano and the higher end Shimano. The feel is quite similar. But with the MT7s and the MT5s, I'm going to say there's more modulation in the MT7s. And then the MT5s are still a great brake. I've actually reviewed them like a year ago. Link will be in the show notes. I reckon the modulation's more closer to a Shimano. And now we're going to talk about why would you want modulation. Well, when you're smashing down downhills on your 22, 23, 24 kilo e-bike, the best friend you have are your brakes. We want to be braking to the point that we're not sliding or skidding. When you're skidding, you have no traction and you have no control. For me, it's just, I feel safer. I feel like I can really push into those corners and know where that bite point is, and know I can slow myself down without skidding and sliding out. And now a word from our sponsors. The legends at Insta360 have made the smallest action camera on the market. This is 26 grams, riders. It is so small, check it out. So the best thing about this camera is it shoots in a square format. So if you have it on a chesty or on your helmet, you can take a crop for Instagram stories, and then you can put a square thing on Instagram, or then you could put a vertical or a horizontal crop for Facebook. So all your social media is covered, and the image stabilization and the color is second to none. Definitely a fantastic little action camera, and thanks Insta360 for sponsoring this video. And now I want to touch on the 220 rotors and if you should go up to the 220 rotors. Look, for me, I'm 82 kilos on a good day. And for me, if I was riding really steep, gnarly stuff, I probably would go to a 220 on the front. But that 220 rotor is actually going to give you, I believe it's 10 to 20% more power. But it's also going to give you less modulation. So for me, I say 203 front and back. If you are going to go and do steep, gnarly stuff, or you're pushing over 100 kilos, then maybe go that 220 on the front. But it's not all gravy, riders. There's a few problems with the MAGURA MT7 brakes. I'm going to start off with the levers. The levers for me are not the strongest levers on the market. I actually have broken 2 in the last 9 months, but that was at the same time in a big crash. And I would dare say any brake lever would have broken in that situation. But if I was asked to improve the product a little bit, I'd like to see like a Raceline MT7 lever with the exact same feel, just stronger built, because I'd like to know that it's going to get me home if I do have an accident. Like, I don't mind if they bend, but I don't want them to break and then I'm in the middle of nowhere. And then the second point is bleeding. They are not the easiest brakes to set up and bleed. I actually spent a few hours with Bayer, a few hours with Alvaro, trying to set these brakes up. We had zero luck. But then I went to Specialized, and Thez is an absolute gun. And he told me 100% take the brake pads out, 100% use the brake pad spacer that comes from MAGURA, the yellow one. Then take the caliper off the frame. And so when you start your bleed, you can actually move the caliper around because it's quite a big caliper. You're actually getting air in the caliper. You don't have air in the cable, but it's still in the caliper. And also another tip would be use brand new pads when you're bleeding the brakes. It's just gonna work better. So all said and done, they're not 100% perfect. Probably would make those changes to the levers. But saying that, 100%, I will definitely be running MT7s on all my personal e-bikes in the future. I just think they give you a better stop, more modulation, and so much power. So if you are looking at doing an upgrade on your e-bike in 2022, then I definitely can recommend the MT7s. They are an amazing brake. And right, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this long look at the MAGURA MT7s. If you have any questions, hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I reply to everyone, and you know it. Stay safe out there, and we're gonna see you soon.